All right, we're a week into this thing, so a perfect time to go back and look at exactly what the 49ers have done with a chance to identify patterns. And I've already identified a couple very key changes in process for the 49ers to create what they have right now, which is still a very unfinished product, a roster built around their foundational pieces. But contract details are starting to come in. Contract news is flowing in across the entire NFL. We have exploding positional markets. Just this morning, Derek Stingley Jr., the cornerback for DeMeco Ryans and the Houston Texans, signed for $30 million annually, an escalation of $5 million APY from the previous top spot, which had been signed a week ago. J.C. Horn, $25 million. Stingley is now at $30 million. Yesterday, we got the news of Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. What is it? $40.25 million for Jamar Chase, Bengals wide receiver one. T. Higgins at about $28 million, nearly $29 million, wide receiver two. Positional markets are exploding, and the 49ers' hidden change of process lies in the money aspect of all of this. And I got a big article coming up on the San Francisco Standard this morning. We're going to do a dedicated video talking about San Francisco's larger strategic philosophy and how it's emulating the Rams. But this, what I'm about to share with you, these are like sub-philosophies, sub-techniques that the 49ers are employing that give us clues about how they're viewing this 2025 season. Anyway, the contracts that we're seeing right now with the exploding markets, I mean, these are $5 million escalations at a time. It's crazy. And you look at the fact that the salary cap has risen 24.1% over the course of the past two seasons. So this has been a monumental surge in NFL revenue, which has been tied to a monumental surge in the salary cap. And the fact that the 49ers got out ahead of the Diamador Lenore deal is looming larger and larger as we see contracts for J.C. Horn and now Derek Stingley Jr. $90 million extension over the new 3-year lifespan, $89 million guaranteed, but that is $30 million per year. For comparison, Diamador Lenore, when he re-signed with the 49ers during the fall while the season was still going on, that contract was worth $18 million per year. And Lenore statistically should have made the Pro Bowl in the NFC. So he's probably number 12, number 13 ranked amongst cornerbacks now at this point after Horn and Derek Stingley signed their deals. And he is, I mean, he's a lot better than that. Let's put it that way. I think Diamador Lenore, with his versatility, could make the argument to be paid as a top 5 guy since he's playing outside and inside. And I think it's an ascending stock, too. He's only getting better. So the 49ers got out ahead of the Lenore deal. They didn't wait until the offseason. They didn't wait until the salary cap exploded yet again. I mean, we've seen it increase year over year. But there was another 9.3% increase from 2024 to 2025. The 49ers were able to negotiate and lock in the extension with Lenore before the increase from 24 to 25. So they didn't have to deal with the 24% increase over the past 2 years. They only dealt with the 13% increase from 2023 to 2024. Is that a lesson for the 49ers? I'm sure it is, but I think the key is a lot of people will say, well, why didn't they come to the table earlier with a lot of other players? Well, it takes two to tango in these contract negotiations, right? And to sign a deal, both parties have to sign on the dotted line. Some guys would rather wait because they think they can milk more money out of the negotiation. So each situation is unique. The Brandon Ayuk situation was very different from all the other ones. Ayuk even sat on the deal that he eventually accepted for 3 weeks at the very end of it. I don't think that happened in any of the other 49ers contract situations. But when we talk about the differences between all of these, the Lenore one truly stands out because the 49ers were able to get it done mid-season, not at a top 5, top 3 rate, but right around a top 10 rate for Diamador Lenore. And the contract is already aging very well for the football team. So that is one big change in process. I don't think it's all that hidden. 49ers were able to get this contract done on the earlier end with Diamara Lenore. We'll see what their business plans are moving forward and if they're able to get other players to sign on the earlier end so they don't have to deal with these exploding markets. The other change in process here, and this is the hidden one I was talking about, is starting to show in the 49ers contracts, which they've given out over the first week of free agency. It appears to me, because we already have 2 deals out now, and the rest of them should come here over the course of the next few days, but it appears to me that the 49ers are moving away from adding void years to contracts, which is something that they had done for virtually every qualifying contract over the course of the past couple seasons. So to illustrate this, here's the deal for Jason Pinnock, the 49ers' new safety. It is a veteran minimum base salary, a signing bonus of $980,000, a little bit of a workout bonus, and then a total cap number of $2.2 million. This is not a large deal, but what's interesting about it is that the 49ers chose not to prorate the signing bonus. According to NFL rule, if you want to, you can take signing and option bonus money and not have it count all against the 2025 salary cap. You could spread it out for up to 5 years. Even if that player isn't under contract for 5 years, you can park the money in what are called void years. As an example, here's Jawan Jennings' contract signed last offseason. As you can see, Jennings is only under contract through 2025, but the 49ers tacked on void through 2029 to take the $6.2 million signing bonus and stretch it out, divide by 5, 1.24 million times 5. They even added a second bonus, an option bonus of 5.6 million that kicks in this year and stretches out through 2029. So like an accordion, the 49ers stretched out. Do the accordion sign again. It looks like an audible right now. They stretched out Jawan Jennings' cap hit as far as possible. The 49ers had done this, again, with virtually every deal that had been eligible for this kind of proration. And they were trying to save as much short-term salary cap space as possible over the course of the seasons where the salary cap situation was much more crowded. But as we've studied what they're doing in this 2025 offseason, it's been clear that the 49ers are doing some financial housekeeping, a nice reset. And they had stretched out the second most money in the entire NFL into these void years, as we saw with Jawan Jennings' deal. Only the Philadelphia Eagles had stretched out more money into void years. So they paid the money now, or they paid the money on the short term, but the salary cap bill for it came in the long term because of the accordion proration that I'm talking about. It appears to me that through what we've heard from John Lynch, the 49ers restrained spending, the 49ers actual actions, they obviously haven't signed any free agents to massive deals, so they're not adding huge new money onto the books. The 49ers' insistence that the 11-player draft is going to be a huge part of their roster building process, and the draft is obviously cost controlled. It seems to me that through all of these things, plus what we're seeing from the new contracts, and Jason Pinnock's and Richie Grant's are the 2 that are out right now. And Richie Grant's looks very similar to this. It's worth $1.5 million, also with a small signing bonus, but it's not prorated. It seems through all of those things that the 49ers are intentionally choosing to take cap hits, as much of those cap hits as possible this season in 2025. Another great example is Deebo Samuel. The 49ers traded him to Washington, and through doing that, they were more than willing to take all of the void year money and all the future year extended prorated money and shoulder it as a dead cap hit in 2025. $31.6 million they're willing to take on this season for Deebo Samuel. Now, remember that the way the cap works, it's connected from season to season, and a lot of people don't understand what dead money is, but dead money is money the team's going to have to pay regardless against the salary cap at some point. So the 49ers are voluntarily choosing to absorb as much of the future dead cap hits here in 2025, either by taking contracts that had spread the money out into the future and collapsing the accordion into the present, like Deebo Samuel's deal, or by awarding new contracts that are no longer stretching money out into the future. That is at least my read on the transactions that we've seen so far. And what this shows us is that the 49ers are using this season as a nice financial housekeeping reset. Then they're going to carry over how much money they carry over. They're still on track to carry over a lot of money into 2026, even though they're shouldering a lot of the cap hits this year. But the books will be essentially clean for the 49ers come 2026 moving forward, where I expect them to be re-involved in upper levels of free agency again and all those things. I think that this season, and this is something that I'm writing about on the San Francisco Standard, the article is out now. We're going to do the dedicated video on it a little bit later today. The importance of getting back to the basics, to the lifeblood, were extremely important, and the lifeblood is obviously the NFL draft, were extremely important for the 49ers because they had been in rental mode over the course of especially 2024, but even before that in 2023 and 2022, they traded for Christian McCaffrey. They had a really good roster in every single seasons since 2019. They lost the Super Bowl in 2019. They were still building, though, as a roster, I think, up through 21. 22 is when it really peaked for the 49ers. And then they were just trying to rush to cram in a Super Bowl. And the moves were viewed through that lens, right? For the 49ers, they're okay with bringing in guys on a short-term deal if they had a hole that they needed to plug. Devondre Campbell was a great example of that in 2024 after Dre Greenlaw got hurt in the Super Bowl. So the 49ers were going veteran players, not relatively cost-efficient contracts, and short-term thinking. And it made sense because they were trying to kick down the door and win a Super Bowl. The short-term thinking forced the 49ers to push cap hits backwards. And there was no penalty for this. It's like a zero interest loan. It's not like the NFL comes and taxes you for doing this, but they felt the need to push the cap hits backwards so they would have enough room to operate in the present. Now, because that led to diminishing returns, the oldest team in the NFL in 2024 went 6-11 and finished very, very poorly in numerous key performance metrics. The 49ers are cleaning out the fat, and they are taking all of the salary cap bill that had been scheduled for future seasons. They're having it hit here in 2025, where, by the way, they still have plenty of room. They've got about $50 million of room, and they're pressing that reset button so that the slate is relatively clean in 2026 financially. They're taking the salary cap medicine now, if you will, where they have plenty of room to do it, and it doesn't really affect their plans because this was the year that they wanted to hit the reset button on the draft. They might have wanted to hit the reset button last year, but they lost in overtime of the Super Bowl. And sometimes you just have to try to press the pedal to the metal, hit the gas, and try to kick the door down. And that's what the 49ers did attempt to do in 2024, and it didn't work. So that's my observation right now. As the rest of these contracts come in, we will study how the 49ers have executed them and how they've structured them. And my prediction is, based on seeing the Jason Pinnock deal, based on seeing the Richie Grant deal, and based on all the other transactions so far, most notably Deebo Samuel, I think that the 49ers are trying to shoulder as much cap hit as is reasonable in this 2025 season so that they can really have that blank slate in 2026 and beyond. A really interesting, subtle shift there to go along with some of the bigger shifts that we've been talking about for the 49ers. So we're a week into this right now. I could do a quick little recap right now of all that's happened for San Francisco ever since last Monday when the legal tampering window opened. This is a look at the 49ers roster. Everybody that is shaded in yellow is a core foundational piece. We have identified those and marked those over the course of the wild past 7 days. That includes Kyle Juszczyk, who was away from the team for 5 days. He was released and then he re-signed, and the $7 million fully guaranteed verified that Kyle Juszczyk is one of the core foundational pillars, one of the weight-bearing walls of the 49ers during this house remodel that we see happening. Obviously, Purdy is as well. 49ers and Purdy continue to negotiate. Mac Jones added as backup quarterback. Seems that Tanner Mordecai is in a good position to elevate to the number 3 role for the 49ers, which might mean a 53-man roster spot for Tanner Mordecai. But the addition of Mac Jones shows us that the football gods do indeed have a sense of humor. One of the more lucrative signings, and that's not saying that it's all that lucrative. It's for about $4 to $5 million a year. Demarcus Robinson, wide receiver. 49ers still have Brandon Ayuk on the roster. We're still waiting to see if he gets traded. I think it's unlikely because, who's going to want to pick up a receiver with an ACL and an MCL tear? It's not impossible, but given the situation right now with Ayuk, I think the 49ers' best approach moving forward would be to hope that he can reemerge into core player status and get that yellow highlight instead of this injury shading on his name. But Demarcus Robinson, veteran coming off his best year, it can help the 49ers pick up some of that slack. 505 receiving yards for the Rams, age 29. Going to be 30 for the 49ers this season. Luke Farrell and Kyle Juszczyk are now both 49ers. Farrell was one of the first free agent signings for the 49ers. He reprises the role, or will reprise the role, that Charlie Werner played for San Francisco. The 49ers obviously have missed Charlie Werner over the course of the past year. Good blocking second tight end. Farrell also is a lot of the sift blocks that he can perform. Just the movement across the formation. A sift block is when you're coming from one side to the other, and then you take out usually the defensive end. Seen Kyle Juszczyk do a lot of that, and I think Farrell does that very well for somebody who's 6'5" with the higher center of gravity. I think this allows the 49ers to move into 12 personnel more often, but also 22 personnel, 2 backs, 2 tight ends, because now Kyle Juszczyk is back in the fold. Big issue here is that the 49ers want to make sure they're better running the football than they were in 2024, because that sets up the basis of the whole offense. You could tell no work right here done on the offensive and the defensive line through free agency, which I think makes sense given the fact that the market has been so overheated and the 49ers are just not willing to play B-list players or C-list players A-list money. Don't pay more money than a player is worth. And free agency is seeing a huge incongruence in that way. If it's a C-list player, don't pay him B-list money. If it's a B-list player, don't pay him A-list money. And I think that the trenches have just been so overheated, the market there, that the 49ers have firmly said the NFL draft is where we're focusing on the D-line and maybe even offensive line. We'll see how the 49ers approach it with their 11 picks. But that's a big part of the Rams formula that the 49ers are emulating that I wrote about on the San Francisco Standard. They added Luke Gifford, special teams ace, formerly of the Titans, fast linebacker who might be able to be the backup Mike, radio in his helmet to Fred Warner, and I'm sure that he'll compete for one of the other 2 linebacker spots. But special teams was number 32 last year, and the 49ers in a cost-efficient way taking aim at that with Luke Gifford. They claimed Trey Tomlinson off waivers from the Rams. Speaking of the Rams, that seems to be the theme of the moment. He was part of those 2 Rams draft classes, 2023 and 2024. They drafted 24 players. He was part of the 14-player one in 2023. Feisty 5'8" cornerback, now with the 49ers under contract for the next 2 seasons. Trey Brown, they rated him from another division rival. He was with the Seattle Seahawks. PFF's top-graded press coverage corner in 2023. 2024 saw an ankle injury for Trey Brown. That's why they were able to get him at a decent price. And then the 2 safeties I was talking about, Richie Grant and Jason Pinnock. So that was the week for the 49ers. Obviously, Kyle Juszczyk headlined some of that news, and then they did trade Jordan Mason as well. That was a move that had been expected. And I really don't understand the uproar over it, because it was good business for the 49ers. They move up into the 5th round with the 5-6 pick swap, and they get a 6th rounder next year. They weren't going to pay Jordan Mason anyway, so they essentially manufactured some draft compensation out of thin air. It's a Moneyball type of process. And some of the little details are hidden, some of the little changes that the 49ers have made. But that's why I'm here, trying to bring you the 49ers strategy. That is your 49ers alarm update. We'll be with you throughout the course of today as free agency continues with more 49ers news.